In today's episode, we're talking about what I believe is one of the most underrated of all vintage toy lines, Mighty Max. I got new Doom Zones, I've got new shrunken heads, I completed that Magus that I picked up on the last toy hunt, and I've even got some awesome knockoffs. Let's rip into it. What's going on, guys? I hope you're doing well and I appreciate you tuning in to today's video. Like I mentioned at the top, today we're talking Mighty Max. I'm running through all the sets that I've picked up or I've completed since my last Mighty Max video. And we're going to kick things off with my favorite out of all the sub-series that make up the Mighty Max line. I'm talking about the Doom Zones. Starting off with this set right here, this is Mighty Max Slays Doom Dragon, a Series 1 set that I had on my 2023 wish list that I ran through in my New Year Top 5 stream with Matt from Keep On Collecting. So I'm really happy to have Doom Dragon in the collection. As you can see, we've got a nicely sculpted dragon's head, but if you're familiar with Mighty Max, you'll know that the charm is all in the interior. And when we open up the dragon's head, we've got a really cool, like classic fantasy horror cave setting with nicely sculpted crevices and rock formations. We've got some wicked decals which we'll talk about, but first let's look at the figures. So as with most of the Doom Zones, we've got 3 different minifigures. Obviously we've got a Hero Max, we've got the Doom Dragon creature, and then we've got this figure right here, which between the hooded cloak and what looks like a butcher's knife, I'm getting like Ghostface from Scream vibes with this, but having done a little bit of research, this is Ravendark, the evil sorcerer. So here we have the main villain of the set. And if we look at the vertical play area, we've got an awesome lair for Ravendark. So we've got his books, we've got a coffin, and of course we've got a staple of the Mighty Max toy line, a shitload of skeletons sculpted lining the walls, which is really cool. The base has a recessed cavern for the Doom Dragon, which is awesome. We have a wooden footbridge, and the stickers that I mentioned earlier depict the floor of the playset as like a toxic subterranean river that flows around these rocks for like awesome floor is lava play scenarios back in the day, which would have been sick. And then the playset is just kind of finished with this rope crossing accessory that kind of ties it all together, which is really cool. So like I mentioned, it was right at the top of my list. I'm really happy to have Doom Dragon in the collection, and even better than that, it actually came with the original card back, which I love for multiple reasons. Firstly, all of the Mighty Max Doom Zones had a comic backstory laid out on the back of the card, which is really cool. But the other thing is, in my opinion, Mighty Max has some of the coolest packaging art out of all 90s toy lines. So it's really cool to be able to have this card back to display behind the playset, so I can show off either the comic backstory or this wicked packaging art. So kicking us off, Series 1 Mighty Max Slays Doom Dragon complete in the collection, and I'm really happy to have it. Next up, we've got another Series 1 Doom Zone. This one I showed super briefly during my haul from the childhood collection of a mate of the channel, Josh. If you've not seen that video, I definitely recommend you check it out, because I picked up some really cool stuff, like I said, straight from the childhood collection of a mate of the channel, which was really fun. And one of the things that I picked up was this Series 1 Mighty Max Doom Zone. Mighty Max liquidates the Ice Alien, a wicked looking alien head. And when we open up the alien head, we have an interior that combines the frozen rocky landscape of a distant planet with extraterrestrial technology, like some kind of wicked alien outpost. Really cool. As for the figures, of course, we've got Mighty Max. We've got the large Isosaurus creature that has a tilting head, which is really cool. And then we've got this villain figure here, which in my opinion has to be one of the coolest villain minifigures of the series. This is the Cryogenoid. We've got a robot with a humanoid face. And then just as a bonus, we've got these 2 other alien heads that have some articulation, which is nice. Now, the vertical play area has some awesome alien equipment, including this little platform that tilts down. And then when we close the set up, the head of the Isosaurus pokes through the mouth of the exterior Ice Alien head, and I love that. One of the things that you see throughout the Mighty Max line is this integration between the exterior and the interior, and the Isosaurus kind of looks like the tongue of the Ice Alien popping out when you close the set. And another hallmark of the Mighty Max line is incredible 90s colors, and this playset, the Ice Alien, is no exception. I love these shades of teal with the lavender and the silver teeth. Just awesome. Displays beautifully open or closed, so another one that I'm really happy to have in the collection. While Mighty Max was marketed as horror in the palm of your hand, this next set takes that to the next level. We've got the Series 3 Doom Zone. Mighty Max crushes the hand with this wicked green decomposing zombie hand with exposed bone and tissue. We've got staples holding it together. We've got worms creeping out of it. Just an awesome exterior. Now, crushes the hand has a really unique structure. Within the front of the hand, we've got a zombie figure bursting out from a grave, and next door to that we've got a cute little Mighty Max sized grave dug out all ready for our hero, and both of those graves have this hinged soil top cover, which is really cool. And then within the vertical area of the playset, we've got twisted up tree roots and branches concealing the main villain of the set. This fella here, Lignan, this mutant zombie tree monster. We've got the index finger of the playset opening up into the mouth of another monster. And then on the base area, we've got tons of sculpted detail of graves and tree roots and zombies breaking free in all different colors, skulls, skeletons, headstones, all the rest. We've got a zombie that's free from the waist up with a swivel articulation so he can lurch at max. Obviously, we've got our Mighty Max figure here. And one thing that's interesting is there's definitely variance in terms of the different Max figures that were packed with these different playsets, but one common difference is the Series 1 Maxes had more of a childish look than the Series 2 and 3 Maxes. So if you're not aware, like this Max here, a Series 3 Max, definitely looks like maybe like a young teenager as opposed to the more childish Max figure that were packed in with the first Doom Zone sets. So lots of fun detail here. We've got a tomb with a lid that tilts open with another corpse trying to burst his way out there. So just an awesome classic horror setting, and you would have just had an absolute ball with this. I love this playset, and in my opinion it's one of the few that actually displays as great closed as it does open. I'm a big fan of displaying these Doom Zones open because I just think there's too much detail, there's too many cool figures, there's too many play features and movable parts not to be able to show them off. But in my opinion, Crushes the Hand probably displays just as cool closed as it does open, so another one that I'm really happy to have in the collection. If you saw my last toy hunting video, you might recall I found this thing right here, Mighty Max Blasts Magus at Second Childhood Toys. And of all the collector mates that I could have with me at the time, I just so happened to have my mate Lee, the bloke who put together this book right here, The Toys of Mighty Max, which I highly recommend. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But Lee helped me sort through a tub of Mighty Max parts to put together this Blast Magus playset as best we could. It was missing 5 parts, and Lee, the absolute legend, he sent me a few of them from his spare parts, which was super kind of him, so a big shout out to Lee. I really appreciate that, mate. But there was still 1 or 2 parts missing that I managed to find on eBay, so now Mighty Max Blast Magus is complete. So I wanted to give you guys a closer look at this because it really is a wicked playset. Like a lot of Mighty Max playsets, it combines organic elements with sci-fi features, so a lot of the Blast Magus figure is sculpted and painted to look like volcanic rock and magma, and it's paired with robotic features. Now, unlike a lot of Mighty Max playsets, particularly the Doom Zones, which have like a unified play area, one single compartment where everything goes on, Blast Magus is a mobile fortress that has a lot of different compartments. So if we tilt up the head, we can open up the chest compartment that has the command post of the main villain, Lava Lord. And we've also got the little pop-out escape pod that Lava Lord's sitting on there. And we've got all Lava Lord's weapons, including these twin missiles that spring-loaded. They sit behind the eyes of the large Magus figure. If we open up the back of the playset, we've got an absolute staple of any good 80s or 90s playset, the dungeon. And the dungeon's been guarded by one of Lava Lord's henchmen, a lava monster figure. We've got a spot for Virgil, who is Max's mentor. And I've also got Max tucked into the dungeon for the minute. And then both of these legs open. So in one of the legs, we've got the lava cycle a vehicle being ridden by another one of these lava monster henchmen. And then in the other leg, we've got another holding cell for Max's guardian, Norman. So Mighty Max and his mates aren't having a real good time at the minute. And then both of the arms have different features going on. So the right arm has a missile launcher, which launches this spring-loaded magma fist. But again, like the missile launcher can pop out as like a standalone weapon. And then in the other arm, we've got this really cool claw weapon. And again, the claw weapon pops out and doubles as a vehicle. Magus's head opens up and we've got a little peg hole there for Max to stand and take command of the battle fortress. And every square centimeter of this thing is sculpted and painted inside and out. I'm just blown away by it. In previous videos, I've spoken about the notion of 80s and 90s toys as an art form because in an era before digital sculpting and 3D modeling, like I'm sure this thing right here was sculpted by hand, and the fact that it's sculpted to this degree inside and out, along with incredible paint deco that complements the sculpt, and you pair that with quite complex engineering and spring-loaded play features, I mean, this thing is a straight-up masterpiece, and now that it's complete, it's honestly one of my favorite pickups of the year. I'm super happy to have Mighty Max Blasts Magus in the collection. Once again, I've got to give a big thanks to my buddy Lee for helping me out with that, both helping me out at Second Childhood Toys to know what it needed and where everything went, and also being kind enough to send me those spare parts. So a big thanks to Lee once again. I mentioned this in my previous video. I highly recommend the book, The Toys of Mighty Max. If you're a Mighty Max collector or if you've just got an appreciation for the line, it's a full checklist and reference guide, but so much more than that. It goes into the history, it goes into regional variants, it covers unreleased toys, all the comic backstories for each of the sets are published in nice detail, merchandise, and so much more. And for a toy line like Mighty Max that has so many tiny minifigures and little hidden play features, not to mention some of the finest packaging art of the era and those awesome comic backstories, it's a toy line that really deserves a book like this. So once again, big shout out to Lee, and I'll include his details in the description below so you can reach out and get your hands on one of those books. But for the next one, we're going from Magus to Macca's, because any 90s pop culture franchise needed a Happy Meal toy, and Mighty Max got two of them. Mighty Max had an ice monster, and it also had this set right here, the Yeti, which Carl from Retro Cartel Collectables was kind enough to send my way, so a big shout out to Carl. But guys, one look at this Yeti playset and you can see that the creativity that went into all of the retail released Mighty Max sets didn't quite go into this one. We've got a nicely sculpted Yeti head, but really no paint detail at all. When we open the set up, we do have some painted details, but really there's not too much going on here, especially in the way of play value. You've got a Yeti figure that's fixed to the bottom of the playset, and then we've got a barely painted yellow Mighty Max figure that rotates around the Yeti with a spin of the dial under the playset. So not a heck of a lot going on here, but at the end of the day, I suppose it is a free McDonald's toy, so you can't expect too much. And I've never seen this in all the time I've been hunting Mighty Max. I've never seen either of these Macca's toys, so I'm super happy to have it in the collection. So thanks once again to Carl, and I'll include the details for Retro Cartel Collectables in the description below so you can check it out and go show Carl some love. Next up, we're looking at the smallest out of all of the Mighty Max playsets, the shrunken heads. Kicking things off with this one here, the Mummy King. A really cool bandaged mummy head that opens up to a tiny but really nicely sculpted interior. All of these shrunken heads had the main villain not as a figure but sculpted to the lid of the playset. So in this case we've got a classic mummy sculpted into the lid of the playset with creepy crawlies. We've got a nice gold Egyptian headpiece, and our Mighty Max figure, which is a unique Mighty Max figure that's specific to the playset. He's got a backpack and a flaming torch, and we've also got what looks like a pedestal or a column with blood at the top of it, and when you close the playset, the blood on the pedestal doubles as the bloodshot eye of the mummy. And again, like all of these shrunken heads, there's really not much going on in the way of play value, just our Max figure, and that's about it. But the sculpting on this is beautiful, and these display nicely, so it's really cool to have the Mummy King shrunken head in the collection. So these shrunken heads were released on card back as twin packs, and the Mummy King was packaged up with this guy right here, head case. Some kind of zombie or decaying radioactive mutant with his eye hanging out and missing all his teeth. And when we open up a head case, we can see the same creature once again sculpted to the lid of the playset with his rib cage exposed. And what's really cool is the creature is gripping the sides of the lid, so when we close the playset up we can actually see his fingers poking out, which is really cool. We've got toxic sludge flowing out of the drain, the bright green contrasting really nicely with this metallic sci-fi equipment. And again, we've got another unique Mighty Max figure. This one appears to have maybe a blowtorch or a flamethrower, which is really cool. And again, it's really interesting to see the evolution of the Mighty Max minifigures. In Series 1 of the Doom Zones, it's a really soft sculpt, making Max look quite childish. Then we have a slightly older Max for the later Doom Zones, but still generic, not specific to the sets. And now once we get to the shrunken heads, we have a way more detailed Max figure with each, with a weapon that relates specifically to the villain he's up against. So it's really cool to see that evolution in the line. We then have another wicked pair of shrunken heads, starting off with this one here, Rapdoll, a villainous looking skull with a gold tooth and a red eye, and this really cool looking snake slithering through the eye socket, the mouth, and a crack in the skull's forehead. And when we open up the skull, we've got a cobra, a bright green cobra, which is a little bit odd. Sculpted to the inside of the lid, the cobra is guarding a treasure trove of gold. So we've got like a temple setting inside Rapdoll. And wrapped up in the coils of the cobra is another unique Max figure. This one with a rope over his shoulder and a flaming torch. So another awesome shrunken head for the collection. And the other set is this one here, Brainface. We've got a weird looking creature with brain textured skin, red reptilian eyes, and a mechanical jaw. And when we open up Brainface, we get kind of a laboratory setting. We've got metallic copper circuitry laid out, we've got other sci-fi equipment, and we have another unique Max figure wielding bolt cutters. And when we look at the inside of that lid, we have Brainface in his full form. This weird brain-headed mad scientist in a lab coat. This thing is awesome. And once again, Brainface's hands kind of peek out the sides of the playset. So again, guys, nothing much going on here in the way of play value, but the detail that goes into these sets, the storytelling that goes into these sets, as small as they are, is still really cool. So another awesome one for the collection. Now, speaking of brains, if you saw that video of my haul from Josh, you would have seen this thing. Now, this isn't a Mighty Max playset. This is actually a micro playset from a line called Body Wars that kind of followed in the footsteps of Mighty Max. And this is called Main Brain. It's one of 6 playsets, all body organs, released by Toy Max in 1994. And like all of the Body Wars playsets, it's got incredible exterior detail. I love the way the brain matter is sculpted along with these awesome blood vessels and what I assume is either the brain stem or the top of the spine. And like all of the Body Wars sets, it's a playset a little bit smaller than a Mighty Max Doom Zone that comes with 3 figures, 1 hero and 2 villains, as well as 2 spring-loaded missiles. But what's interesting is, although the playsets are smaller than a Mighty Max Doom Zone, the figures are made to a much larger scale and are really quite detailed. So we've got our hero figure here, Captain Mighty Mind. And then we've got our 2 villain figures, our Feveroids. So Body Wars was definitely pushing that pro-health message with just enough grossness to appeal to the 90s kids. And then we've got our spring-loaded missiles. And it appears that we've got like a blood vessel design going on the missile here. So that's really cool. Now, in addition to the scale of the figures, the other thing that separates Body Wars from Mighty Max is the lack of interior detail. There's really not an awful lot going on in here. We've got a little step with a peg for our hero to stand on. We've got the missile launcher. And aside from that, all we've really got is decals. So definitely not much going on inside these Body Wars playsets. But to me, it more than makes up for it in terms of that exterior detail. But it just means these playsets are way better displayed closed than open. And then I found this Body Wars set. This one's called Hearty Heart. Now, unfortunately, this one is not complete. I'm missing the villains and I'm missing the missiles for this set, but this was $2 in a rummage tub at a toy fair that I didn't film at. So I was super happy to pick this up. I've got the hero figure. This is Corporal Power Pump. And once again, just like the main brain, there's really not much going on inside this playset, with the exception of a periscope feature built into the valve of the heart, which is actually a pretty cool feature. Aside from that, not an awful lot going on inside the playset, but you've got to appreciate the wicked sculpting detail of the exterior and of the hero figure, so really happy to pick up my hearty heart. I got one more set to show you before we wrap things up. Now, while in my opinion Body Wars stands alone on its own merits, this last one is a straight up knockoff. This is from a toy line called Sammy Steel versus the Micro Mob. First up, let's get a look at our hero Sammy Steel. Get a load of that thing. The head is oversized. You know what? This figure looks like they asked a kid to draw a self-portrait and then they sculpted it based on that. The proportions are all over the joint. The face looks kind of like a stick figure face. It's just so damn weird. And then we have the playset itself. This one is called the Dome of Doom, and it's a fairly classic depiction of a flying saucer. When we open it up, I would have expected to see the interior of a spaceship, but I don't know what to make of this. We've got moon rock all over the place, little alien eggs, we've got creatures popping their heads out, and then we've got like this command center down in the base of the playset with colourful decals. I don't know where we are with this. Now, aside from Sammy, the figures are this alien reptile dude. We've got what I assume is a little alien hatchling. And then we have this kind of hover scooter accessory. Now, unlike Mighty Max, there's no peg holes to position the figures around the playset, so they all just slide around, but more to the point, there's no rhyme or reason. I've got no idea what is supposed to be going on with this thing, but it's still really cool to have a random knockoff in the collection. This was part of a job lot of mixed vintage toys that I picked up on eBay for like 15 bucks, and I researched a carded image of this playset, and this thing is 100% complete, so I'm still really happy to have it in the collection. And like a lot of the toy lines that I collect, I get to a certain point with it where I need to have a little taste of the bootlegs and the knockoffs, so I'm still really happy to have the Dome of Doom from Sammy Steel versus the Micro Mob in the collection. And one interesting feature is it's actually got a clip so you can hang this thing on your belt. Can you imagine cruising around the neighborhood or the schoolyard in 1993 when this came out with this thing hanging off your belt? Just ridiculous. But anyway, I'd say that's about enough of me banging on about Mighty Max, Body Wars, and the incredible Sammy Steel versus the Micro Mob. So I reckon we wrap things up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the latest micro playsets that I've added to my collection. With these ones now ticked off, the main ones that I'm on the hunt for are the last 4 Doom Zones that I need. They're all from Series 3. They're pretty tricky to come by, so I'm not holding my breath there. And in the meantime, if I find some of the other smaller sets that I don't already have, I'll definitely pick them up as well. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, you're a dead set champion. As always, hope to hear from you in the comments. If you're on Instagram, you can hit us up at Crusher Collects. While you're there, go check out my mate Lee, show him some love. His account is well worth a follow. Again, a link will be in the description below. But that is it. Thanks so much once again for watching. Hope you have a great week. I'll see you back for the next one soon, and until then, cheers.